Hey, I stumbled upon an article about blockchain recently, about blockchain government actually, and I think it's time to make a video about that. There are so many stories about blockchain now. Blockchain here, blockchain there, it's a time of blockchain, it's a blockchain revolution, there's so much speculation around that term. And I think people just misunderstand what it is. Not just people who are not IT engineers, who are not programmers, but actually who invest into blockchain projects, who actually buy those cryptocurrencies, who actually work with this stuff. They don't know what it's about, and they keep just saying this word as a mantra for the future, which is supposed to change the world, to make the world better. Do you know how blockchain works actually? It's a technology of storing transactions, payment transactions, in an immutable data structure. Transactions come from people who send money from them to somebody else. The transaction is just a collection of bytes. And then those transactions come into servers, into computers who stay everywhere in the world. And those servers accumulate transactions. They put them in memory. They store them in memory. And then they create blocks of them. So they take, let's say 100 transactions together. They get them together. They call it a block. And then another server also creates a block of transactions. And then one of the servers decides that this is the good block to go into the immutable structure of blocks, into the central database of blocks. So there is some storage of all the blocks we were managed to find before. So now we find a new block. One of the servers finds a new block and says, I like this block better than everything else. So let's put this block of 100 transactions into our mutual database. And then the block is signed, so-called. It doesn't really matter how, but it's signed. And then it goes into the storage of other blocks. The beauty of that is that we cannot go back into previous blocks and change any of them. So we cannot just jump into the block which we found yesterday and say, hey, the transaction which was made before is incorrect. How about we change it a little bit and change what's in that block? We cannot do that. That is a fundamental principle of how blockchain works. It's immutability of the data which were found before. That's the technology which blockchain suggested, which Bitcoin creators actually suggested to use. And what's important is that any element, any computer who stays in the network and creates those blocks and stores the previous blocks is not trusted more than anyone else. Actually, they are not trusted at all. So none of the computers are trusted enough to manage the entire database of blocks. They have zero trust on each of them. But together, because they work together in a large group, in Bitcoin right now we have approximately 10,000 computers. They can be trusted, but none of them individually can be trusted enough. And that's the idea. So we combined computers, participants with a zero trust, and all together they create trust because of the technology that they all use. So they all use the same software, they all communicate with the same data, with the same format of data, and that's why if any of them will start lying, will start delivering some incorrect data, for example, one server will say, hey, I would like to change something in the previous block which was found. We found something yesterday, but how about we change that and send that money not from Jeffrey to Sarah, but actually from Jeffrey to Mary. And then all other servers will say, no, we don't like that. We see that you are lying and we're not going to accept your changes, your modifications. And why are they going to say that? Because they all use the same software. The same software which is written in C++ by Bitcoin creators and which is open source. It's hosted on GitHub and everybody can see that software, and all participants of the network, they use the same software. If the network will start messing with the software and start using different versions, then the trust will be lost in the network. And if 50% of nodes will use the software which is not the one the Bitcoin creators are suggesting, then the network will collapse. So the trust of this entire network is based on our trust to the creators of the software and to the owners of those servers. So we believe that the majority of them maintain the same set of software packages and they maintain the same database. So they follow the same principles. And that's how the majority creates trust, even though individual elements are not trustable at all. But these principles are not blockchain. The blockchain is just implementation of those principles. So the fundamental principles are: the data is immutable. There is no trust in any individual participant. And the trust is based on one central protocol, which all of them use. Blockchain is an implementation of those principles. There are other implementations. There is, for example, IOTA cryptocurrency, which is based on Tangle, not blockchain, but Tangle. It's another technology which also uses the same principles. Also the immutable database. Also there is zero trust in any particular participant. And also there is one set of software packages in each server. No blockchain, but the same result. Zold cryptocurrency, which we are creating right now, is yet another implementation of the same set of principles. Again, the data is immutable. You cannot change the data which was approved some time ago. You cannot trust any individual computer because you don't know what's going on there. They may mess up with your data, but you can trust them all together because they all use the same protocol. They follow the same set of rules. And there will be more implementations like that. So what I'm saying that the revolution is coming, definitely. But the revolution, the name of the revolution is not blockchain revolution. It's a revolution which is called zero trust decentralized systems. And they can be applicable business-wise to different situations. For example, you can make payment processing like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Zold, and many other cryptocurrencies. Thousands of them are doing right now. That's one application of that principles. And that's where you need blockchain. There are other ideas. So let's say we collect votes from the public, we need to put them into one system, and we don't want one central control of that system. We don't want one organization to stay in charge and deal with the database, because that could lead to corruption, that could lead to data modifications, etc. So we want the system to be immutable, and we want it to be hosted by a number of participants which we don't trust individually, but we want to trust them in general. Do we need blockchain in this case? I don't think so. We need to invent a new system which will also be based on the same principles, but there will be no blocks and, for example, no chains, because there are no transactions. There are votes. It's a different story. You don't need to send transaction from wallet to wallet, from address to address in the voting system. Why do we need blockchain in that case? We need to invent something new. And that's what the world needs now. More systems like blockchain, more innovations, more inventions in that area. So when we're saying that it's a blockchain revolution, we're blocking that innovations. We're just limiting ourselves to one particular implementation of the very valuable and powerful set of principles. Blockchain is applicable, perfectly applicable, to transaction processing. But what about voting system? Let's say delivery tracking. I also heard that people saying that, hey, how about we put on blockchain the delivery tracking of the mail? So you deliver packages from location to location. How about we trace those delivery routes and track packages through blockchain, so nobody can modify that and say, I did not deliver you, or I actually sent you the letter, but you didn't receive it because it's your fault. If I put it into some decentralized, immutable system, immutable storage of data, then nobody will be able to say that, because I put the record there, the package has been sent, so just trace it there, and you will find it. Do we need blockchain in this case? It doesn't look like we need specifically blocks and chains. We need something else, which will also be decentralized, immutable, and all that. So my point is that it's not the blockchain revolution which is coming. It's just silly to say blockchain everywhere you think about something new. Think about decentralization and immutability of data with zero trust to any individual participant. That's the future, definitely. This is where we need more innovation. This is actually where the world is heading now. But by limiting ourselves to blockchain, we're just blocking potential innovation in a great market which is just open to us. Think about that. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned.